Hello, folks. In this week's edition of BTB Reacts, I stumbled upon an article that was things I wish I knew when I got into information security on dark reading. Didn't open it yet. Figured we'd do that together, right? It's the whole point of this is let's see what we can get into. So what I wish I knew at the start of my InfoSec career. Admittedly, I did take a quick read through this kind of overview slide. This is on dark reading. I'll put a link to that below. It's something we've actually covered before in a figuring it out. I think Ron Schlecht and I hit on that, and we'll also put that link below too. But it is something that we get asked pretty regularly as we're interviewing folks for different positions, be it an analyst or a consultant or even a more senior role or different levels of consultants. And I'm a nerd for things like this because I do think I'm a huge fan of the fundamentals. And I actually haven't rewatched our figuring it out on that intentionally. Because when I saw the title of this, I'm like, this is just a fun one. I just tend to like this kind of stuff. I'm excited by people getting into this industry. And I think it's really hard for anyone that's interested in this space, regardless of age or work experience, time in the business world. I think it's easy to get kind of thrown off. And I certainly don't have all the answers, but let's see what this article covers. And again, it's on dark reading. I think it's a pretty decent site to check out from time to time. No relationship with them or anything. I'm going to try to move quickly because there's potentially 15 or there's 14 additional pages here. So let's see what they recommend. They talk to a whole bunch of information security experts. And oh, good. These seem to be pretty short. So security is a team sport. Okay, sure. I mean, I can't fight that. That's coming from former CISO under Obama, President Obama. Yeah, I mean, I think that's obvious. You should. I don't know. I mean, I would think anyone would know that any element of the business world is a team sport. Sure, you might be pretty capable and able to do all kinds of things on your own, but you're going to need some other folks. You can't know everything. Whether you're really good at offense, really good at defense, there's just so much to know. And there's some great resources out there. So a broad base of technical knowledge is essential. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I like this quote here. If an analyst doesn't understand how web application communicates with a database, how will he know if traffic he is seeing is normal or malicious? Yeah, that's a huge one for me. I'm a big fan of the foundational knowledge in information security. I think the kind of the certification game, as it were, is has kind of promoted folks working at book knowledge, which is good and important. But if you're really just good at taking the test, which tests do mean something, those certifications do mean something. But no, tell me about TCP/IP. Tell me about what your understanding is of certain kinds of attacks of man in the middle, not just the theoretical, but like how they work and what tools are in play there, and why they're effective, right? That to me is what's going to separate you. It's one of those things like trying to explain. I have small children, so you're trying to explain to them why some of the fundamentals of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, how that's going to apply in life, right? There's just so many ways that it applies. There's not one specific big win that you can communicate to folks or communicate to a kid or an adult with the cybersecurity realm. But yeah, you got to know those fundamentals. And I know I say it far too often. People that know me are probably sick of hearing it, but you really have to know those. And it's broad and there's no bad place to start. Just start. Don't let it intimidate you. Me personally, I don't know enough about so much, but programming, networking, those are fundamentals. Know at least a little, and then you can always expand. And I certainly don't know enough. Diversity lacks in many areas of security. This is true. It's an unfortunate reality. Absolutely agree. We don't see enough diversity throughout. I know here at BTB, we make a concerted effort to be a diverse organization the best we can. And as the father of two girls, I would love to see more diversity. It's certainly improved from when I started my career 15 plus years ago, but nowhere near where it should be. Diversity makes team better. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine who would disagree with that. You get different people with different mindsets and backgrounds, whether it's different cultures that they come from, whether different geographies drove their culture, whether they were born and raised here in America and just came from a different culture, their family did, or different life experiences. Again, ages, genders. It's all, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine who would disagree with that. That to me is so fundamental. It's great to get different perspectives. Absolutely agree. Again, I don't know who didn't know this going into their InfoSec career, though. I guess that's one of my questions. Business priorities overrule security. Yeah, that's true. And I do see that being something that maybe someone new to the space wouldn't fully appreciate. I was fortunate enough that in college, I had taken a handful of organizational behavior classes. And again, there's book and school and there's reality. But I also had the opportunity to do some internships and co-ops where I went to college. And that became apparent early on when I was in those co-ops that, look, I'll never forget one of my first professors in ISIS 101 was the business of business is business. And you can't forget that. And I think as security professionals, we have to remember who our audience is and what the quote sell is. You're not going to be able to just say, this is the ideal InfoSec solution, so therefore that's what we do. You have to connect everything back to business priorities. And sometimes you can point to regulatory issues and compliance concerns or compliance regulations, however you want to frame it. But yeah, I do see that as something, a potential idealist could come in this space and say, why can't it just be better? Well, you as the InfoSec professional or the budding InfoSec professional, it's on you to make that case. You can't just expect the business folks to connect all of those dots in the way you want them to. The responsibility falls on the InfoSec professional. So I think this is a good one. Absolutely agree. Don't doubt yourself. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can see, again, if we're talking about someone changing industries or new to an industry, I can see someone just wondering, if they can do it, if they can make it. And, I think in my experience, I've worked with a lot of really tremendous people that, they weren't gifted kind of anything from a knowledge respect, right? They might be gifted people and they might be brilliant people, but they worked for that knowledge. You can't just read a book and then be an expert. Sometimes and I have tremendous love and respect for our military, but sometimes you see that attitude in the military, like I go to a training course on this, so now I am an expert on this. And while that's true to a certain extent, there are people who have no schooling, no formal schooling on many elements of information security, or at least information technology. Again, things like development, computer science, and networking. Yet they've learned it all through, yes, reading some books, yes, reading some forums and all that kind of stuff, but working in it. If you just ask someone for an answer and they give it to you, that might help you temporarily, but you kind of bashing your head against the proverbial wall and figuring it out, that's where that doubt can creep in, right? It's frustrating in that moment and you doubt yourself. And that's a natural human thing. So I can see that, but again, I don't think that's, an InfoSec specific thing. I think that would be true of any time you would change an industry. It's really easy to be intimidated by what you don't know. But the real trick is to realize that there's so much that just about everybody doesn't know. And, you might have a different impression of someone in terms of their knowledge and skill set compared to the reality of their knowledge and skill set. So don't doubt yourself. I like that, I guess. I think it's something that is a good kind of positive message to, keep with it. Sure. Lean on the InfoSec community. Yeah, I mean, I guess that goes hand in hand with don't doubt yourself, right? reach out to other folks. I am really terrible at social media, so I don't do enough of this, but there are some tremendous resources on Twitter and Reddit and so many other places that are just too many to name, but there are so many good spots to connect with other people. Local things like, here in Philly, there's Security Shell. We've had a couple different groups on over time, and yeah, just connect with people. We're a good-hearted group here in InfoSec. Happy to help people out and point them in the right direction and share experiences. And yeah, I definitely agree with that one. Take career risks. Sure. I agree with that. I'm bad at risk. I'm a risk averse guy by nature, but yeah, I'll move quickly through this one because I think that's true. Take a gamble, have that confidence in yourself and lean on others. I think, again, these last couple do go together. Security is largely a human issue. Yourself, not tech-based. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that connects to some of the other things like, that have come up already with this. I think it is human issue. What I brought up about stakeholders and, winning the business side over, that is the human element of information security. Absolutely be as brilliant technically as you can, but if you can't communicate with others and connect on a human level, you won't be as effective as you could be. I'm not saying you won't succeed, but I just don't believe you'd be as effective as you could be. Always bring data. These are kind of, I don't know, I'm not liking this now because it feels like so many of these, at least in my crazy brain, are the same thing or very closely related. Always bring data to make the case for security. Absolutely agree with that. Have the facts, know what is objective and know what is subjective, and make a clear distinction. Be honest with folks. I guess a little bit of a side rant here, but sometimes you see, I'll call it the audit community. And I spent some time in the audit community many moons ago. And I think they almost want to, and this is a kind of a natural business tendency too, is they want to get numbers to explain things. And sometimes these numbers, because they're numbers, feels very objective. But when you look at how those numbers have been derived, or how they've been derived, it's actually a whole bunch of subjective things. Likelihood, impact, those are subjective things. You can put some parameters around them to make them less subjective and to make them more consistent. If you assessed likelihood and impact and certain threats, you can get scores that are generally consistent. But ultimately, if you're being very honest, there are many things that are subjective. It doesn't mean that they're useless. It just means you have to take it in context. So yeah, bring data, but also be very honest, in my humble opinion, about what that data is and isn't. Patience is essential, sure. Again, but patience is essential in parenting, at least as far as I could tell. Thus far for me, sure. Yeah, be in it for the mid to long game. Don't expect immediate results. I agree with that. The sky is usually not falling. Absolutely. Love this one. It's something that Ron Schlecht, one of our managing partners, he's brought up to me and probably on some of our other videos over time. What we do sometimes is very serious, but at BTB, we try to have fun with it because the reality is, even though this is important things and there are potentially a lot of dollars and livelihoods at stake when you're dealing with breach and breach response or incident response and things like that, sure. But most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, someone's life isn't in danger. And Ron brings the experience of having worked in as a first responder, where he has worked in that context. And I think that's a very good kind of grounding concept is, it might feel really bad right now, but believe me, it could be worse. Yeah, we're in InfoSec, folks, not usually things that are life-saving, not usually. Sometimes, not usually. Things change daily. Yes, yes and no. They do change, and you need to stay on top of things. You need to be aware to be a capable professional. I think you need to keep up on the news of the day and what's going on. But I don't know. I don't. So many folks want to just say, "Oh, it's so different, this year than last year. What's the hot emerging threat for 2021 or 2022? What's the next 5 years look like?" And When you do a look back, like take a pause here, pause this video, go think about the last 5 years in InfoSec. We're still dealing with ransomware, DDoS, identity fraud, carding. None of those are new. They might evolve in some important ways that we have to account for, but yeah, things change, but I don't know. I almost see it as get over yourself. It's not that dramatically different. That's why I'm such a fundamentals guy. Perception of security is still a challenge. Yeah, that's true. I think that is important to know at the start of your InfoSec career. But again, that connects to some of the other things we've said about stakeholders and the business side and winning them over and all that. So again, I encourage you to check out. I think this was a decent write-up by Joan Goodchild here on dark reading. Again, we'll put the link in. I liked it. I'd encourage you to also check out, again, our figuring it out on, getting started in InfoSec. I would think there's some good stuff there too. I would believe it kind of connects to what we've covered thus far as well. So thanks for the time, folks. This was hopefully a fairly short and sweet video, and comment below on what you're thinking of this stuff. Thanks.